Bonjour, Pinkies. Comment ça va? I have exhausted all of the French that I remember from high school, so let's just move into the review. Welcome to the third edition of my review of the Heartstopper book series. This one, Heartstopper 3, was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's much thicker, or at least it felt longer than the last two books. Man, there was so much character development in this. There was so much more Charlie and Nick love action. There was so much everything. The art was good. It was so good. I can't recommend this one enough, first of all. So if you don't want any spoilers, just read the book. So first of all, let's talk about the story. So this one starts off with Charlie telling his parents about his relationship with Nick. They were pretty surprised because they just thought that they were friends, and they also thought that Nick was straight. And they pretty much immediately say, no more sleepovers, which I thought was funny and an accurate reaction. This is something that's happened to me. After that, we actually get an interaction with Nick and his friends. And Nick's friends actually come to him and they say, we're really sorry. Harry is such a jerk and we should have cut him out of the friend group immediately. He's a horrible person and he has pretty much affected us all in bad ways, especially you. This was something that kind of took me off guard. I didn't expect that kind of development with his friends. I expected them all to pretty much be cut out of the books from now on, but surprise, surprise, Ousmane strikes again with some amazing writing. Nick is kind of apprehensive, but he says he still likes them and he still wants to hang out. They ask him about Charlie, and he does not tell them that they're in a relationship. And right after Nick runs away, his friends go, man, he almost told us about their relationship, which I thought was so funny. Ousmane has this great British dry sense of humor that always gets me, and I really enjoyed that. So this book mostly takes place in France. The English invade France. There's no military involvement, but the class of Heartstopper do go to France, and all of Charlie's friends are there. Nick's friends kind of stay behind, but we get introduced to two new characters, the teachers. So there's Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi, and those two are really great. They have this really fun dynamic where Mr. Ajayi is sort of more outgoing and fun, but he doesn't have a great grasp on the situation a lot of the time. He's a lot less in control, whereas Mr. Farouk is much more controlling and much more demanding, and he's very funny. Their relationship dynamic is very much more a mature, older queer relationship, which I enjoyed. I like that Ousmane understands that not all relationships are, as restrained as Charlie and Nick's relationship is. Moving on through the story, Nick and Charlie are trying to come out to their friends as being in a relationship. At the same time, they're trying to keep it a secret because in the trip, couples are not allowed to stay in the same room. So they get to stay in the same room. Anyways, the biggest conflict of the story really is that Charlie is apprehensive to tell his best friend Tao about his relationship with Nick. It was probably Tao that outed him back in the day. So Charlie is apprehensive to tell him because he doesn't want his relationship outed to the entire school. He just wants to be honest with his friends. This conflict sort of drives a lot of the tension in the story. With Tao, we get to see him sort of exploring his relationship with Elle a little bit more. He's very scared to bring a lot of conflict onto her life after she's transitioned and she's gone through so much bullying. And I thought this was very realistic and something that, again, I never expect Ousmane to bring the kind of nuance that she does in her stories, but this one was incredible. It's something that would happen in a real relationship, and I thought the way that she handles showing different experiences is so accurate and so honest and yet so restrained. You see writers like Kripke, who did the Boys series. There's no restraint. There's sorts of gore beyond belief. The characters always take the dark route. Even with stories like Twilight, you can see that there's not a level of restraint that Ousmane has. The relationship between Charlie and Nick is a type of healthy that I've hardly ever seen in any kind of media. When Charlie is honest with Nick and tells him that he has an eating disorder and that he sometimes cuts, this was like a dark moment in the story. In a real relationship, especially one in high school, the response to that would not be near as mellow and loving and accepting as Nick's was. And this kind of writing is sort of central to the way Ousmane approaches this. Whenever she's given the opportunity to give an example of a healthy relationship for her audience, or to drive the character development forward and make it a little bit more realistic and dark, she always goes with the healthier option. That kind of thing is very rare. Nowadays, stories always seem to want to be dark no matter what, and I love that Osman is not afraid to show a healthy relationship, show the healthy way to approach a situation like this, a conflict like this. I love it. I love the dynamic that she always does. And it's so refreshing, especially the way Osman handles it, where there's brightness in the dark. Whenever there's a scene like Harry, for example, this is one that really caught me off guard. Harry, the bully from the last two books, sort of changes his tone. He turns a new leaf. He defends Charlie and Nick when they're in a bad spot, and he even apologizes to Charlie at some point in the book. When all of this is happening, Charlie doesn't accept the apology. He says, I'm glad that you realize that I have feelings, but that doesn't mean that I have to forgive you. He doesn't immediately accept him into his friend group. He doesn't do any of that. It took me off guard. I expected him to be forgiven. I expected him to become part of the friend group, and he wasn't. Osman decided to give her audience, which is mostly high schoolers, an example of how to respond to something like this. His apology didn't seem entirely genuine. It seemed that he was more sad that he lost his friends than that he was a jerk. Moving on in the story, Tao is also having his own little conflict with Elle. He wants to approach her and tell her that he likes her, but he also doesn't want to put more drama on her life. They end up sharing a kiss, and we get to see a mini comic at the end of the series that shows sort of their relationship beforehand. It's something that I had never experienced before, and I never will, because I'm out of high school. He was friends with her before she transitioned, and then he lost that friend because she went to a different school. She transferred to an all-girls school. That's a really sad experience. That's something I've never thought about before, but it would really, really suck if your friend transitioned and had to go to a different school than you, and you're so supporting of them, and then now they go into the school without friends. Like, it's so sad, and I feel for them, and I'm glad that they get more time together now, but oh my heart. I also was pretty impressed that Nick has more backstory than I thought. He can speak really fluent French, which is a surprise to nearly every character in the book, and his father is French, and France, to me, feels so far away. I took French in high school, and I've always wanted to go there. For them, I mean, it's just across the pond, really. I mean, not even across the pond, it's down the street. Another fun part of the story is that Tara and Darcy have a little party in their room. Darcy has kind of become my new favorite. They say no alcohol in the party or you'll be in big trouble. And then she gets vodka somehow, and she goes, oh, I have my ways. And she drinks the vodka and gets really drunk. And it's very funny when they have this party because she's just crazy drunk, and then afterwards she gets sick and she goes to the teachers, and the teachers are like, oh, we really do believe you have food poisoning. Like, they're on to her. And she gets better and they let her off, and I thought that was just such a funny thing, and she's been funny throughout the whole book. There's another part where Charlie passes out because he hasn't been eating enough, and it's a really scary scene, and whenever he wakes up, Darcy is like, oh, I remember I passed out one time because I was wearing a beanie during a heat wave. Tara says, of course you'd be wearing a beanie during a heat wave. You're crazy. I love them so much. And Aled is very shy in these books, and I really want to see more of him because I honestly didn't even know what his gender was going through the first book. For a while there, I thought Darcy and Aled were the same person, but they're not. They're different characters. And to see that Aled has a little relationship in the background that he's like, oh, I didn't really feel like telling any of you, is realistic in a way that I didn't expect. This book, I can't sing it enough praise. I loved it a lot. It's so full of content. The fact that this one is the same price as the other two is kind of crazy because of the amount of content. I really enjoyed it a lot. I hope you liked it. Tell me what you thought of it. If you like these reviews, I'm really excited to be watching the show with Satan herself, Otterly Plays on Twitch. We're going to be talking about the show and watching it pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. The fourth book, I'm going to read it soon. It's right over there. I'm looking at it. I also am going to have my first ever experience of coming out. Not that. I'm going to have my first I'm going to have my first ever experience waiting at a bookstore as a book comes out. The yearbook is coming out on October 18th, so I will be at Barnes & Noble getting that book. I might do a vlog about it because I'm really excited, but I hope you don't speak French. That'd be sad. Have a great day. Bye.